Sony's Spider-Man universe, a world that many have hated on for making villains into heroes. So let's give the fans what they want to see, with a villain being a villain, in The Lizard. A quick recap of this series so far. Venom 3 just dropped, and I believe it's the best of the trilogy, but now fans are wondering what's next for this world. I'm set to create my plan for the future of Sony's Spider-Man universe. We started with Spider-Man 4, otherwise known as Spider-Man King in Black, which would take place in between Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars on Battleworld, and end with the Venom symbiote being in Morbius' possession, and all the Spider-Men uniting together with other Marvel heroes to take on Doctor Doom after defeating Null, setting up the events of Avengers Secret Wars. However, Null, the king of the symbiotes, won't be gone forever, as he'll be built up as the Thanos or Darkseid of the Sony Spider-Man universe. This movie would end Phase 1 of Sony's Spider-Man universe, including the 3 Venom films, Morbius, Kraven, No Way Home, because of the post-credit scene, and King in Black. And I guess you could sort of say Across the Spider-Verse, but that was just a quick cameo, so I'm not going to include that. So after this movie, we'll have Avengers Secret Wars, which as of now is rumored to end with the MCU and the new world of the Fantastic Four fusing into one universe. Just in case you weren't aware, the new Fantastic Four movie takes place in a retro-futuristic version of Earth. So Fantastic Four: The First Steps, it takes place in a different universe apart from the main MCU universe. And right now it's rumored after Secret Wars, Marvel will fuse the worlds and pick and choose what works and what doesn't to continue telling stories from there. So we're probably going to see the Fantastic Four come into the main MCU and cross over with the X-Men and Spider-Man, and all these characters are going to be in the same world. Now, if they do that for this main MCU world, honestly, what's to stop Sony from doing the same, and this is where this world continues. We'll have Sony Spider-Man universe fuse with Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man universe. But not in the way that you think. It's not going to have Andrew Garfield going against Morbius or against Kraven. It's going to be slightly different than that. Since Sony would still have Tom Holland films going strong after this one, Garfield's role in this world will change because you don't want to have 2 Spider-Man films coming out at the same time. I don't think that would work. I think it would actually deter from the main Spider-Man franchise, which right now is Tom Holland's. It's going to drop that box office in exchange for Andrew Garfield's to continue. I think you can do a slightly different strategy there, so people are still excited for Holland's Spider-Man movies. His role will change, but I'll explain why soon enough. And with that, welcome to Big Flick Energy, and let's get right into the start of Phase 2 of Sony's Spider-Man universe with The Lizard. The first movie of this new world, The Lizard. This is going to be a very different movie, and you'll start to notice with this new direction I'm pushing for some of these villains will actually be villains. It's much more a thriller/horror movie in the vein of the new Wolfman movie directed by Lee Whannell than it is to a superhero or even anti-hero movie. This movie will be very similar strategically to what Jurassic World did with their short film you can all watch on YouTube, Battle at Big Rock. This was a very grounded story that gave context of the world the characters now live in. It's not a world where dinosaurs are in a park. It's a world where you can be out camping with your family, and it can quickly turn into a horror movie with a dinosaur trying to eat you. Let's do the same thing here. Let's make it clear this isn't the same Sony Spider-Man universe. This isn't the same Amazing Spider-Man universe. No. Variants of each other fused into the same person, which for some situations may be a problem. Which is true in the case of Martin and his family, the characters introduced to us in Venom: The Last Dance. Martin is played by Rhys Ifans, and many thought he would be reprising his role as Dr. Curt Connors from Amazing Spider-Man when he was first announced to be returning to this franchise. But instead, he was a hippie with a family. With these worlds fused, though, we can do something very interesting here. This starts with Martin, slowly turning into the Lizard. A film that will be much less inspired by other superhero films and much more inspired, like I mentioned, by the new Wolfman movie, but also by The Fly. It will be a film that delves heavily into thriller territory and body horror with Martin's family trying to escape him. The movie begins and we see this new world that's fused that we really don't know it's fused yet, and the family's back together. Martin seems off and the kids ask why, but their mom tells them that with everything that's happened over the last 3 years and his entire mission in life on finding an alien not being what he expected, he doesn't know his purpose anymore. He'll see nightmares of this other version of himself that lost an arm as a battlefield medic, and eventually nightmares of this lizard beast that fought a spider. His arm will start spazzing out when he's driving, and he will accidentally crash the RV. It will cause him to break his arm, but the kids and his wife are fine for the most part. While at the hospital and with his family, his arm starts deteriorating and the doctors have no idea why, to the point where they eventually have to amputate it. His wife and kids stay at the hospital with him, but eventually he begins becoming angry with them for no reason and tells them to leave. The next day his arm starts growing back, somehow, which leaves the doctors shocked. His wife comes to visit and is in shock as well, and she explains she's happy for him, but when he blinks his eyes turn yellow and she moves away in fear. She tells him the kids and her are staying at her brother's house, and he tells her they won't let him stay there. He asks where the kids are, and she says she didn't want them to see him like this. He gets angry again, saying he wants to see his kids and that her brother's already lying to her and making him out to be a villain again, establishing that there was some past history between the two of them. She decides to leave as he's screaming again and accidentally slaps her. He apologizes, but she cries leaving. The next day comes and his arm is fully grown back. He tries to get up when he calls in the doctors to say he's good to go, and the doctors don't want him to leave, saying they need to do additional tests on him, that his vitals are like nothing they've ever seen. He pushes the doctors as they try to keep him down, and he breaks one of their faces and kills him, and he's looking around scared for what he did. The nurse tries to call, but he kills the nurse also, saying he's so sorry and that he needs to see his family. At this point, he's already deteriorating to a point that's much more similar to Kurt Connor's. He decides to break out of his own window in his own room in the hospital. He goes straight to his wife's brother's house by foot and knocks on the door. The brother gets pissed at him and tells him he's not staying at the house after what he did to his sister. He says he just wants to see his family, and his wife pops in with a bruise on her face and says to her brother to let him stay. He tries to give his wife a hug, but she turns away, saying the kids are upstairs. He goes and hangs out with the kids for half the day until it's nighttime. When it's nighttime and the family as a whole is eating, you can tell the animalistic characteristics are coming through with the way he's eating, and we progressively saw it with the meals in the hospital as well. There'll also be a scene where he goes to the bathroom and he has to peel a layer off of his new arm because he's starting to shed like a lizard. In this meal, he gets in a fight with his wife's brother and he backs away and apologizes. The family says he can sleep here tonight, but tomorrow he needs to find another place to stay, and the wife agrees. So he decides to sleep on the couch, and his wife is watching TV in the middle of the night since she hasn't watched TV living with Martin and misses it. She's watching the news and sees a report that a man broke out of the hospital after killing a doctor and a nurse, and they put up the picture of Martin, saying the cops are currently searching for him. At the same time, as I mentioned, Martin sleeps on the couch, and in the middle of the night, his full transformation begins. He begins screaming as his brother-in-law comes downstairs and asks him what's happening and that everybody's asleep. He comes closer and sees Martin has become the lizard. Martin kills his brother-in-law and chaos ensues. He begins going after his family as this new monster throughout the house. Martin's wife and family are staying in a guest house, so they don't hear any of the commotion, but she calls the cops as her sister-in-law is running away from the lizard. And also, it's going to be more of a farmhouse, so you're going to have a main house and then a guest house on the side. After calling, she tried calling the main house as Lizard is eating the body of the wife's brother and wife. The lizard sees the call and destroys the phone. She goes to the main house, and from here, chaos continues as she begins being hunted by her husband. As she hides, she comes face to face with the lizard, but it's just a layer of the skin he shed. But when she backs up in fear, the true lizard is there to attack her. She's running away and about to get killed, but their son comes in and shouts for his mom. Martin looks over and says the son's name, slightly transforming back into a human as his wife punches him and makes a run for it with the son. Martin gets back up and is fully the lizard again. They go back to the guest house to get the daughter as they lock the door and the lizard tries to break in. The wife shouts for Martin using his name to stop, and he stops trying to break down the front door. But then we hear the back door open and they run upstairs. Whoever opened the door calls out saying, "Stop running," and the wife looks and sees it's a cop. But from there, the lizard grabs the cop and kills him, and then makes eye contact with the wife and tries to follow upstairs, but gets shot by another cop as that cop calls for backup. In this time, the lizard will beat up a couple of cops. He's gonna kill 4 cops and then is finally able to go upstairs for the family as the wife shoots him with a shotgun. They run back downstairs and the lizard is able to catch back up and slashes the wife's back. She calls for Martin to stop using his name again, and the kids look up and realize that's their dad, and say for him to stop, and Martin wakes back up and sees what he's done, hearing the cops arriving outside, and says what has he done, and that he's so sorry, and runs away. He breaks through a manhole to go into the sewer system, as the movie comes to a close with a news report on TV that the wife is watching in the hospital after getting taken by an ambulance, speaking on how the world has changed since the universes merged, and that who we may think we know may not be the same person anymore, as it starts showing situations of certain crimes and murders that have recently happened of previously innocent people killing because in the other world they were criminals, showing that not only Martin's world was changed, and that there are many more characters who may have this problem as well. But this world still has a couple of questions to answer, including where's Spider-Man and what's next for Venom? And while the answer to Spider-Man will come with due time and is very heavily tied into this main storyline for the lizard, get ready for the next video as we delve deep into the movie Agent Venom. So, thank you for watching this video. Please comment down below your thoughts on the lizard, if you would be interested in seeing this take on the character in a more thriller sense versus how they've done with all the other characters of making them anti-heroes. Your thoughts on Spider-Man 4, and on this direction for Sony Spider-Man universe, fusing the VenomVerse with the Amazing SpiderVerse. Thanks again for watching, and see you all next time on Big Flick Energy.